Good morning, everyone. My name's Hank Setala. I'm the Sonic Shaman, and this is a little bit of a different Coffee Connect. You see, I'm in this class, this group boot camp, if you will, for doing things like this, doing live streams. And I've been doing this since the beginning of COVID, really. But they are producing these little challenges to help build confidence and things like that. So I want to share the exercise with you, and then I'm going to share my badass moment or moments. We'll see how it goes. But there's one thing that when you're really starting to look to step into the changing people's lives, and actually one quick thing I almost forgot, let me make this public on my page. While I do this, if you like, please share the video. If you've been getting value out of my little YouTube videos and things, please share them, or if it's on Facebook, share it there. And that is just a way to help other people get this awesome, at least I think it's awesome information. All right. And let me do this, edit audience and public. Perfect. So the exercise or the idea is that so many of us that are healers, or people not even necessarily healers, like people who have something that's changed their lives, that gets them excited, that then makes them want to share their authentic voice with the world, right? When you start to do that and you really start to step into that space, there's this thing called imposter syndrome, where you might have self-doubt, like, well, someone else you look up to, they have it so much more together than me. Like, who am I to really try to offer this message and that type of thing? So one of the ways to get over that and to give yourself a tool to allow yourself to really step into your authentic voice and be willing to share it and be confident in sharing it is something that they call the badass list. And it doesn't have to be big, crazy things. Like one of the examples that one of the facilitators was sharing is that they have a stepdaughter, that just the other week they said, you know what, I love you, mommy. And they called her mommy, and they said that they loved her for the first time since there was this getting together of two different family units, really. And that was like a badass moment for them. It's like you won over the affections of a child, for example, or it could be having a birth of a child. It doesn't have to be big things. But for today, one of the things I want to share with you, and I also invite you, if you have little badass moments yourself, why don't you make a comment and just offer whatever moment you have, and I'll put it up and we can talk about it. And the idea is that you make a list of all these things, and in those moments when you're finding yourself being in self-doubt, you read that list. And this is actually an anchoring technique from NLP. You have something where you're making this list, and while you're making this list, you're remembering the stories and you're stepping into the energy where you felt like badass. Like one of my things, silly one, I'll give you. When I was in high school, one of my first vehicles was a '75 Chevelle Malibu. And even just having that car rolling in the high school parking lot, that was like a badass moment. But I was visiting a friend in Pennsylvania. Hope my parents aren't watching this, right? I was driving my car in Pennsylvania, and I thought, well, I wonder how fast this thing can really go. And so I floored it, and we're going down this country road. And if you know country roads, especially in Pennsylvania, they're not exactly flat. And the one kid that was local that was next to me that was kind of telling me what directions to go, he goes, "Oh, watch out for the hill." And he puts his hands up, like bracing himself against the ceiling. And we launched the car like Dukes of Hazzard style off this little hill incline. And in that moment, I was terrified. So I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh, my arms are just totally locked. And we're like in midair, like really launched. I don't even know how high. And then the car landed. And fortunately, because I was so terrified, I'm keeping the wheel like dead still because I don't know what to do. If I had turned the wheel at all, we would have probably rolled the car. And then when we hit the ground, we bottomed out, and the kids that were in the car behind us said there were sparks that just flew like all the way out. It scraped the whole bottom of the exhaust system off. And then I said, I don't know what happened, Dad. I don't know what happened to the exhaust system. But that was like one little moment that, I survived that and I made it through. And it was kind of a cool, in retrospect, I wouldn't choose it again. But in retrospect, the whole scenario, how it happened and the whole experience, that was kind of, badass to do it and survive to tell the tale. But if you have any little moments, share them. I want to give one more that's more a little bit more on my path in a sense. So when I got sober, and then I was looking to, well, one reason I started drinking was because I was medicating myself with alcohol because I had such an intuitive gift, empathic gift, awarenesses of other people, places, and things, but not with the tools to recognize that those things that you're aware of aren't yours. Those things that you're aware of are somebody else's thing, and it's my judgment about what that feeling is that makes me own it. They say as empaths, if you name it, you claim it, right? So all this stuff I'm bringing in and having my experience of whatever I was feeling, but it was like 10 magnitude because 99% of what I was experiencing wasn't even mine. It was other people, places, things, etc. So when I got sober and I started looking for a structure in which to kind of start using my gifts, I found Fellowships of the Spirit, which is a spiritualist church in New York. And while I was going there, one of the things you have to do every year is you have to do 70 readings and 70 healings per year for 2 years. So you're going to have a total of 280 encounters working with people over this 2 year program. Now, in classic humanoid fashion, I procrastinated. And one of the things that I did once I realized that there was no way I was going to finish doing all this homework before the end of the 2 year program was to approach Goddess Elite, which is a local metaphysical shop. At the time, Pat and Jim owned it. And I just said, "Hey, Pat and Jim, I'm going to school in Lilydale and I need to get these 70 readings and healings done. And I'm a little bit behind. I don't care about getting paid for them. Um, I just need to get these done." And I didn't realize it, but Pat was giving me an interview read. She's like, "Well, I want to see how you work first." So I gave her a reading and they're like, "Yep, you can do that." And when they sent out the email inviting people to come in and have these little mini readings, they said, "And after he's done doing his homework, he's going to stay on and become a store reader." And that was a kind of a badass moment because it's not exactly easy to get into these metaphysical spots. There's people who try to get into stores all the time and don't. And here I am, not even trying. I'm just desperately trying to get my homework done, and I fall into being a store reader. And this one little event started to unravel into a whole bunch of badass moments because, as you know, Melissa Wiles bought Goddess Elite. And then while we were sitting in between readings one day, we were like, well, if we wanted to put on an expo, a holistic fair, where would we put it? Is it even possible? We started making phone calls, but we started with this question: if in addition to making your own badass list, which I highly encourage you to do, to see all these moments in your life that are truly things that are you're just like, wow, I did that. And more than that, these moments that really resonate, like the one I'm about to share and the one that I've already shared, these are moments where, for just a brief moment, there was a continuity, a congruency of body, spirit, and being. And in those moments that all that comes together, magic happens. Because Melissa and I, with one simple question saying, if we were going to put on a show, where would we put it? It led us to the soccer sportsplex. You can rent a whole soccer field for like $80 an hour. And we rented the first year we did it. We started, I think, planning it in March, maybe April. And we had the date for the third weekend in October, the first year we did it. And in that short period of time, we were able to get at the first year was only 45 vendors. It was one soccer field, coordinating the pipe and drape, all these things. And we knew that for a show, if you go to do a show, you got to go for gusto, because if you either are a success and you're going to keep doing it, or it flops and it never happens again. How many one-time shows have you seen? So I put like $5,000 of my own money into advertising and the upfront costs and all this. And I remember the day that we finally got to the expo, and you're just hoping that all this money you put into advertising and all these things, like, will the people come? And we ended up with a line out the door. We couldn't get through people fast enough to get them in. We had over 1,000 people our first year, and then the show grew from one soccer field to two soccer fields to three soccer fields. And it's like, wow, we created that. And then the stories from people years after. There's my friend Jedi, and it's short for, oh, I forget the name, but it's short for something. But I wish it was just like a Star Wars name because it's a cool name. He had a wife now, or I think they're married now, girlfriend or wife, either way. And I just asked, well, how did you meet? Because they were so happy. You can tell when those couples are together and they're just so happy. He's like, well, believe it or not, we met at your show, because he had a speaking slot and he had come in to do a speak. And I believe she came to see his presentation and they connected. And I've had many, many stories of like that, where people who connected at the show that Melissa and I put on end up collaborating and creating so much more out of it. And so that's like the badass moment that keeps giving throughout your entire lifetime. One thing that you do that has this ripple effect of change and possibility that shifts other people's lives, and that shift in their life shifts lives. And that's what all this is really about, when you can start being your authentic voice in the world, sharing that authentic voice, and start creating what I like to call the multiplier effect, right? One person affects 10, those 10 people affect 10 more people, those 10 people affect 10 more people. And that's how you change the world. You don't change the world by trying to change the world all at once. You change the world by taking a moment and just allowing yourself to be authentic, and allowing, I love this, what they said, allow your mess to be your message. The things that you overcame, the things that you got through in order to be your authentic voice, and then offering that medicine to another so that they can find their voice and express their voice. And then it starts to exponentially shift all the world around you. But we're so worried about looking so far outside of us for change, we forget about looking inside of us for change. So if you have your own badass moments, I'd love to see them in the comments. And I did share this with my class. So if anybody from class is watching this and you want like bonus homework, and you want to come on somebody else's feed and offer a badass moment, shoot me a direct message on Facebook, and I will send you a link to come on air. Make sure you have headphones. I'll put headphones on if everybody will come in. But if you have any moments in your life, really right now, put them in the comments. We do have Ernie saying good morning. Good morning, Ernie. Ernie and I hopefully will be on soon. We didn't have the greatest connection, but we have this amazing talk that Ernie and I are going to be doing on Hopo Ono Ono, which I know I'm mispronouncing, but tune in for that. That's going to be, let me get the, do I have it? I don't have it. I thought I had it loaded in here, but I guess I don't. Oh, wait, here we go. So this is the little banner I made for Ernie and I. We're going to be doing a whole talk on Ho'oponopono Ono, which is an amazing little technique, especially if you're holding it from the space. Dragonfly dragon. Magic Mike, I'm sure that is a badass moment, but I'm not sure what you mean with that. Though, I will say that since you mentioned dragonflies, a really serendipitous thing. When recently I have the Holistic Center and our partnership for the Holistic Health and Healing LLC parted ways, and I started a new company called Emergence of Being, and it's all about humans going from human doings to human beings, like really emerging as a species into this state of being, because beingness precedes doingness. If whatever you're being, the universe delivers to you opportunities to express that being through doing. That's just the way it works. Now, the cool thing is the banner behind the desk in the center that had the HHH banner hanging, the hooks that Ryan had bought for it were dragonfly hooks. And I didn't put it together, but the whole logo for Emergence of Being is a dragonfly. And so it really worked out pretty cool like that. Let's see. Actually, I think I have the logo. Oh, here's a little dragonfly. I'll put it up in the other corner. I always forget it's flipped. But that's the little logo for Emergence of Being that very serendipitously has dragonflies hanging on the banner hooks. But anybody else? Anybody from class out there? No? Good morning, Carol. Carol is an amazing psychic medium, also puts on some shows down in the Akron area. At least I think she still does that show. Was affiliated with it. I don't know if they're still active with it, but Carol's amazing. Also huge into access consciousness, which totally changed my life. Funny story, another serendipitous moment. I had double booked myself for a workshop, because one thing that I would do is hold workshops for people. And either me or Ryan had to be there because we were on the lease. It was like a church space that our landlord had. And so I ended up asking Ryan, hey, Ryan, will you go and sit in for this class for me? And because I have to be somewhere else. So Ryan goes in thinking that he's not going to pay much attention, because he had a run in with access consciousness years before and didn't think much of it. But Carol's class blew him away. And then he's like, Hank, I got to run your bars. He ran my bars. I woke up like a half hour later, drooling on myself. Like, what was that? That was amazing. Just the sense of space that it created. And then started becoming a facilitator and really getting in with a lot of the access material. And that's where you have these little mantras that are life changing, like what else is possible? Shifting from the energy of why, which is a looping energy. You say, why, universe? Why is this happening? Here's another experience of why it's happening. Instead, ask, what else is possible? What energy could I be to create something different in my reality? And then the universe sends that to you. It sends you these opportunities to experience something different. And it's in a question like that that starts to break you out of the monotony of being unconscious. And then the other things like all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. Say that 10 times in the morning, 10 times at night, your whole life and world changes, no doubt. Carol can speak to it. And Carol says, "Thank you so much for being you, changing the world, and grateful for you being." Yes, thank you so much, Carol. You're amazing. We have to connect again. We have not connected in a long time because we don't live super close, and the shows that we would run across each other at, we haven't. We just haven't been at the same place at the same time. But Carol, what could we create together? I wonder. Let's see. Well, Michael was saying that a dragonfly showed up for him 3 years ago. You need to give me more than that, Mike. I don't know what your magic moment is yet, or what magic moment, badass moments. But really, there could be so many. One that I'll give you from the world of shamanism. That this was super cool. Now, my father-in-law is from Germany, and we were out. He was just visiting a bit because he had brought the children back from Germany, and we were just starting to make a fire. And as soon as we get the fire got going, the storm rolled in and it starts to rain. And in his broken English, he goes, "Oh, what a pity." And I said, "We'll see." And now I know why I grabbed this. I grabbed this before I came down, not knowing I was going to tell the story. I'm like, "We'll see." And I go in and I get my mesa and I go back outside. A mesa is a medicine bundle in the South American tradition that I use. And I go to the clouds and I start going, "Iari cheska kuna, ompui, 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 iari kantai cheska," which means like attention, victory and praises to the stars, bring your starlight here, is basically what I was saying. And no joke, if you looked at the radar, like right over Westlake, dry as a bone, all around raining. And you could actually see it storming all around us. And her dad looks at me and goes, "It is unbelievable." That is a shamanic badass moment. But again, they don't have to be these big things. Anything where you thought, "Wow, I did that," from being a lead in the play to getting out of a speeding ticket. It could really be anything. So make this list. And then when you find yourself in a place where you're doubting your authentic voice in this world or thinking that you can't do something, look at that list and allow all the times that you were a badass to help support that insecurity and shift it into a new possibility. Because what energy could you be to allow all that badass potential from all these things that you make on your list to now shift your reality to step into whatever it is you don't have confidence about? So that is all I have for you today, really, because I'm going to be on two more times today. So if you are around at 10 o'clock, you can hop on for Dr. K and myself. We are going to be doing a whole thing on beliefs. I'm looking for my visual here. We're going to be doing beliefs. We were going to do that last week and we switched it up because somebody on the stream that was commenting, we realized that this was going to be of more service to switch them and do forgiveness last week, which you can go back and check out. And we're going to do beliefs today. And then my friend Matthew, who was on last week, and we did this really good one, trauma and spirituality. If you didn't see that, go back. It is definitely becoming a fan favorite. But we're going to be doing escapism. And this one in particular is something that I can relate to a lot because when I was overwhelmed with my intuitive abilities, what did I do? I medicated. I became a professional drinker. And I've shared on here before, it was to the point where in the morning, I brought in like a glass of whiskey with me and put it on the little shelf in the stand-up shower. And I would have like a whiskey while I showered. That's how far like crazy I was with it. And I didn't think I had a problem. But that's escapism. It's like trying to escape reality to avoid different things. And Matthew is going to school to be a counselor now, so he has a lot of good, fresh perspectives. He's actually in his internship night now, running groups and things like that. Joseph is saying, "Thank you, great way to start today." Joseph, thank you so much for being here and being a Wilka Nuna Wakuchai, a sacred brother, soul brother. He's on the Shaman apprenticeship program with me, which, by the way, save the date, March 13th, which is also my birthday, but that's not why to save the date, is going to be the start of next year's shamanic apprenticeship program. And we're planning to do it virtually, but we are, COVID allowing, we are going to be doing a couple like week-long retreats, one of which we're planning for West Virginia, and we'll put them in different places in the country. We're even planning maybe for one in Costa Rica eventually, like fun destination locations. But the bulk of the work we're going to plan to do virtually with these optional in-person things for people who are able to make it. But we're going to make them independent. You could either take it in person, you can take it online, you can do both. Right now we're finishing up what was supposed to be a 20-week apprenticeship that's going to be like a 35-week by the time it's done. So it's great. great fun. But my teacher is Don Zane Kerfman, the author of Inca Mountain Magic. Phenomenal teacher, and the depth of the man's mind is unsurpassed. Anybody in the program can really speak to that. You ask one question and he could go off on an hour tangent, and it doesn't have to be about shamanism. One time it was like the Egyptian books of the dead and moving through the bardos and all kinds of fun stuff. So really amazing facilitator. We'll also be doing a hoodoo course in the near future, which is American folk magic. We're just working out the details on that. So stay tuned if you like to do that. That never works, thank God. I'm not sure what this is in relation to. Magic Mike, you're speaking in code to me today. Ernie says Neptune and Pisces rule escapism and or spiritual awareness, and I am a Pisces sun rising. Ernie and I did a whole thing on astrology with some of the transiting planets. So if you are interested in that, it's on the channel. We went over the winter solstice, which is still coming up, and eclipse, which is still coming up, and then I forget the other one, Ernie. We went over three of them. There was an eclipse, a lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, and solstice, I believe. So those three things, and spoke to, based on the energies, how you might be able to use those things for self-help and that type of thing. Let me throw that graphic up too. At least I thought I had it. Maybe not. Oh, there we go. Astrology for self-help. This was the one that I did with Ernie just a little bit ago. I love that picture in the background too. It was like a cool little astrology picture. Any questions for me? I'm going to be on in 20 minutes. So I'm going to take a break. I haven't even taken a sip of my coffee. I'm supposed to be drinking my coffee during these coffee connects. Or if anybody has an actual badass moment they want to type into the comments. Magic Mike, man, I don't know what you're talking about. Give me a full sentence. And already said I got it. It was the big three. Magic Mike is a person who I believe lives in multiple timelines at once, and he might be having a conversation with you, and the things that he says might not make sense right away because like a week from now or a day from now all of a sudden everything's in context. Either that or he's driving and he's trying to type in between stoplights or something. Which if that's the case, Mike, don't do that. Don't do that. But anyway, so I hope you got a little bit out of today. And I encourage all of you to do some homework, get a piece of paper and a pencil, and really make a list of all the badass moments, from all the things like my Dukes of Hazzard experience and my Chevelle Malibu to getting out of a speeding ticket, which, I'll share one more of this because this was badass. I was taking a tuning fork class with Dr. John Boyu. He wrote the book Human Tuning, and I forget exactly where he lived, but it was out by the Woodstock area, out by New York and whatnot. And Dr. John Boyu in his book talks about how when he was first getting into sound therapy, and he had this idea that you could tune the human body, and he was going to take tuning forks with him into an anechoic chamber, use them, and see if the pitch of his nervous system would shift. And because there was a book called The Maharishi Effect where they talked about something similar. So anyway, he got the tuning fork. He's on his way back to the university where he has access to this anechoic chamber, and he gets pulled over by a state trooper who sees the tuning fork on a seat, asks him about it, goes through the whole thing showing him a tuning fork from a radar gun and how they calibrate it, the radar gun using the tuning fork. But whenever he uses it, he can look at a car, know exactly how fast it was going, and verify it with the radar gun. And that was John's validation that he was onto something. Now he got the speeding ticket, which is where my story comes in. I'm on the way back from the workshop, and I'm flying probably 88 miles in a 55 or something like that. It was bad. And I don't even notice until a trooper's like behind me with their lights on that I'm getting pulled over. And when she comes to my door, she's like, "Do you know how fast you're going?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, 88 miles per hour. And she's like, "Do you know what the speed limit is?" I'm like, "No." And she's like, "It's a 55 zone." And I'm like, "Okay." And she's like, "Well, where are you going?" I'm like, "Well, I just had this amazing workshop," and I basically word vomited on the poor lady about this workshop and sound healing and how amazing it is, and etc. And she's like, "Today's your lucky day." My brother is a doctor at the clinic, and he's into all that stuff. And she didn't give me a ticket, which is, for a trooper, going 88 in a 55 is an amazing feat. So that's pretty badass. And that was just me being my authentic self, excited about what I love. And that is where the magical moments in your life happen. where you can just be your authentic self and not care about being judged. I had no expectation about getting out of a ticket or anything like that. When you have an expectation, you're putting to the universe that you're projecting a certain outcome, and you're handcuffing the universe for creating for you. So instead, you just say, universe, what else is possible? And that leaves the slate wide open for anything to occur. Ernie says, relax and enjoy my badass moments is a string of fairs in Ohio and around, meeting Alice Green Langholt and so many others. Perfect. And Alice Langholt she has one of the best selling Reiki books called Practical Reiki. And that's where I first met Alice was, I think, I met her at Shaman too, but I saw her on the fair circuit with Ernie before she moved out to the Maine area, I believe. I believe that's where she moved to. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I had planned this to be just a quick 15-minute thing, but we all know that once I go, I keep on going, right? So thank you so much for tuning in. Please tune in for 10 o'clock with me and Dr. K and 11:15 with me and Matthew. And until then, ask yourself in every moment, universe, what else is possible? How does it get any better than this? And I guarantee you the universe will show you, and it will create this upward spiral of possibility in your life. Take care, everyone.